This might sound dramatic, but it's true. You can completely reinvent yourself in the next 3 to 6 months. I've just done it. Not by trying harder, not by downloading new habits or becoming a shiny 2.0 version of yourself, but by shifting, or more accurately, by shedding your identity. And if you don't try to understand this, you could end up spending the next 5, 10, 15 years wondering why you're not further ahead, whilst other people with half of your talent seem to accelerate. There's an old idea from a guy called Maxwell Maltz, who wrote this book called Psycho-Cybernetics. He was a plastic surgeon, and people came to him believing that if I change how I look, I will finally feel how I want to feel. And some did, but in actual fact, most didn't, because their self-image never changed. You might have fixed their nose or their jawline, but they still believed that they were ugly. And that's when Maltz realized something really profound. You will never outperform the identity that you hold about yourself. Your identity is the tank that you operate in, and you grow to the size of that tank, but never bigger. And most people, they're swimming around in a tank that's been built by other people, their parents, their boss, their past failures, their school teachers, or what Jimmy from year 7 said to them 25 years ago. It's not a tank that has been built by themselves, and people love this thought of creating a new me or version 2.0. And I've used that language sometimes as well because it's sexy, it's exciting, and it's easy to sell to ourselves. But it's also nonsense really when you break it down, because you don't need to become somebody else. You don't need to outrun your past self. What you actually need, and what I work on with a lot of clients, is identity shifting and identity shedding through removing beliefs, removing behaviours and inherited stories that bury who you actually are. And when you remove the front and the facade and the armour, you show up with this level of power that most people haven't felt for years, perhaps even since they were kids and they thought they're invincible, until they got put in their tank of limitation. And here's the mad part about all of this. When someone rejects this new version of yourself, it doesn't hurt as much as you think, because it's almost a relief. You realise that you're not helping me get to my next level anyway. Every great story follows the same pattern. It's the hero's journey. It was popularised by Joseph Campbell. An ordinary world you live in, you have a call to adventure. Then a transformation starts with multiple messy bits in the middle, and then you return eventually to a better home. And here's the part that blows my mind. The biggest mistake that most people make isn't failing in the journey, all those messy bits in the middle. It's refusing the call to adventure in the first place and choosing instead a life of quiet desperation. I could have, I should have, I would have. If you feel the nudge to step up and to take a risk, to change something, but then you vacillate back to the old world, back on track, you overthink and you ask everyone else for permission, and people stay stuck here, not just for months, but for decades. Negative emotions start, burnout, frustration, boredom. All these are not signs that we're broken. They are simply a call to action. It's your identity saying it's time now to grow. When I left the corporate world to set up onto, some people, including myself, thought I'd lost the plot. A great salary, a great job, great title, safe, predictable, successful. But inside I felt the call and it needed to be answered. The old identity of the corporate world had done its job. It had got me to where I was, and I felt extremely grateful for that. But it couldn't take me to where I actually wanted to go, to the place that I actually wanted to be, with the freedom to build something on my own terms and to even fail on my own terms. Clients that I work with often hit this same point. They know exactly what needs to happen. They're just terrified to admit it. But the first step could not be brutally simpler. Stop ignoring the call. Say yes, take responsibility, and move. And when you start to move, you then realize that you can't reinvent yourself unless you drag in these old beliefs around with you. And everyone has one or two or three core stories that do most of the damage. I'm too old. I'm not, or I'm too young. I'm not valuable. I need to prove myself. I'm not a disciplined person. I always fail at X. My personal favourite is I must be validated by the world to feel important. But these stories run your behaviours, and your behaviours reinforce your identity, which then obviously shapes your outcome, right? So around the loop we go. So the work is in awareness, truly seeing the patterns you've been repeating for 20, 30 years, whatever the tool, whether it's journaling, meditation, shadow work, coaching. The goal is always the same, and it starts with being honest. Hold up the mirror, name the stories, and break the loop. Because you can break beliefs in one foul swoop. That is possible, and I've seen it. But identity doesn't shift through one breakthrough moment. It shifts through evidence and repetition. In fact, identity roughly translates to repeated beingness. How cool is that? So just like getting fit, you don't train once and wake up shredded. No, you train consistently. You build the reps, you build proof, and then you become an athlete and you feel like an athlete. So here's the most practical thing that you can do. Create a win log or a weekly check-in. And if you want to become more confident, hold yourself to account. Write down every moment that you held a boundary or you backed yourself. Or if you want to become alcohol-free, every moment where you stayed in control. If you want to level up your leadership, record every decision that you made without outsourcing it to someone else. And evidence stacks, and then identity shifts, which is repeated beingness. And suddenly you are the person that you are trying to become, not through force, but through alignment. So if you want to reinvent yourself, answer the call, release the stories and the destructive beliefs, and reconfirm your identity daily. And that's exactly what we do inside of On2. We work on mindset, lifestyle and career, but they all have to be aligned to one thing, a self-image that matches your potential. Because the moment you shift your identity, your behaviours change, your decisions sharpen, and your results accelerate, and life finally starts to match the standard that you expect of yourself. So if you like this video, subscribe, and also sign up to my newsletter. The link is in the bio. I send out weekly notes that is going to help you on your own hero's journey as well. So until then, I'll see you in the next one.